The snow outside our house that morning looked like something out of a postcard. White, glittering, perfect. But inside, it smelled like burnt leftovers and resentment. Christmas had always been my sister Haley's day. She was the golden one, the reason for the expensive lights strung across the porch, the one Dad called our pride. I was the noise in the background, the afterthought in family photos. They were all sitting in the living room, laughing about Haley's new iPhone, her new boots, her future. I sat quietly by the tree, watching the twinkling lights reflect off the red glass ornaments. I didn't ask for much that year, just one thing. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. A scarf. A simple scarf. Not even a new one. Just something to call mine. When I finally spoke, my voice came out smaller than I meant it to. Did I get anything? Dad looked at me from the couch, his mouth twisting into that smirk that always made my stomach drop. What do you need gifts for? You don't earn anything. Mom chuckled without looking up from her phone. You're lucky we even let you sit in this room. Haley rolled her eyes. Dad, maybe we should give her something small. She looks like she's about to cry. I wasn't. Not yet. Dad scoffed. Fine. You want a gift? Something about the way he said it made the air change. Mom looked up now, a cruel smile creeping in. I know just what to give her. They stood up together like they were in on some private joke. Mom disappeared into the kitchen and came back holding a large black trash bag. She dropped it in front of me, and it made a heavy, hollow thud. Your gift, she said sweetly. Open it. I hesitated. My hands were shaking as I pulled the bag open, expecting something, anything, even a cruel prank like old clothes. But it was empty. Just air. Cold, dark, hollow. They all started laughing. Haley covered her mouth, pretending to look sorry. Oh my God, that's actually kind of funny. Dad grinned, eyes glinting with mean amusement. You said you wanted something that's yours. Well, that's your place in this family. Trash. The laughter echoed in my ears. I wanted to speak, but my throat felt locked. Then Mom said it, the line that burned itself into my memory. If garbage wants gifts, maybe garbage should stay where it belongs. Before I could even move, Dad grabbed the bag, spread it open, and jerked his chin. Get in. I froze. What? He took a step closer. You heard me. Mom's smile widened. Don't make it difficult. It's Christmas. Do as you're told. Haley's laughter cracked through the air like ice. Oh my God, Dad! Shut up, he barked. You wanted to see funny. This is funny! The room spun. I didn't know what was worse, the humiliation or their joy. He yanked the bag open wider. The smell of cheap plastic filled my nose. I didn't move fast enough and he shoved it toward me again, harder this time. In. I didn't fight. I couldn't. My body just moved, like it was trained for obedience. When I sank into that bag, it crinkled loudly. They pulled it up around me, the plastic sticking to my skin. Fits perfect, Dad said, voice cold and satisfied. Then the world went dark. I heard the back door open, felt the sting of winter air rush in. Haley's voice trembled with disbelief, not pity, just surprise. Dad, you're not seriously? But he was. They dragged me outside. The ground crunched beneath their boots. The sound of the dumpster lid opening filled the silence like thunder. The next moment, I was weightless, then impact. Cold metal, the sharp smell of rot, the heavy thud of the lid closing above me. I screamed, or tried to. My voice got lost inside the bag. Their laughter drifted through the lid, fading with distance. And then, silence. At first, I tried to claw my way out. The bag tightened around my arms. My breath came fast and shallow. My tears froze halfway down my face. Time disappeared in that darkness. Minutes felt like hours. I couldn't tell if I was shaking from cold or from something deeper, something breaking. At one point, I thought I heard footsteps again. For a heartbeat, I thought maybe they'd come back. Maybe it was enough. Maybe I'd been punished enough. But no. It was just the snow falling heavier, muffling everything. And somewhere between the muffled cries and the sound of garbage settling beside me, something inside me changed. I stopped crying. I stopped begging. I stopped waiting for them to open the lid, because for the first time in my life, I saw them exactly for what they were. Not parents, not family, just people who mistook cruelty for control. And as that thought settled in, something strange happened. The fear went quiet. All that was left was resolve. By the time someone opened the dumpster, a man from the maintenance crew, face pale with shock, I wasn't trembling anymore. I was done being small. He helped me out, kept asking if I wanted to call someone. I said no. I looked back at the dumpster once, then at the snow-covered street leading home, and I realized I didn't live there anymore, not even if I went back. Because a house built on cruelty stops being home the moment you see it clearly. When I got back to the house that night, my body was shaking from the cold, but my mind was clearer than it had ever been. The living room lights were still on. Through the frosted window, I could see them. My parents sitting comfortably, sipping hot chocolate, the TV flickering across their faces. Haley was scrolling through her phone, laughing softly like nothing had happened. I opened the front door. The warmth hit my face first, then the smell of cinnamon and cocoa. Christmas comfort for everyone but me. Dad looked up and froze mid-sip. "You got out?" he said, like it was a joke. Mom didn't even blink. "You should have stayed there longer. Maybe you'd learn gratitude." Haley chuckled under her breath, not even looking up. I stood there dripping melted snow onto the floor, my hands blue, my hair frozen in strands. The bag still hung around my shoulders like proof. "You're insane," I whispered. "All of you." Dad slammed his mug onto the table. "Watch your mouth." "I watched everything," I said quietly, "and I'll remember every second." He stood up, his voice rising. "Don't you dare start your pity games." Mom interrupted him with a lazy wave. "Oh, Robert, let her talk. It's Christmas. She needs her drama." Something inside me snapped, but it wasn't rage. It was calm. Cold, quiet, calm. I turned away and walked straight to my room. The floor creaked under my boots. The same posters on my wall stared back at me, faded and meaningless. I took one look around and knew it was over. I didn't belong here. I never had. I packed what little I owned, a sweater, a notebook, a cheap watch, and the photo of me from before life got cruel. Then I sat at the desk, pulled out a blank piece of paper, and started writing. Not a letter for them, but for me. Remember tonight. Remember the cold. Remember the laughter. Don't forget it, because forgetting makes you weak. It was my promise, my contract with myself. When I left the note on the desk, I didn't look back. Outside, the street was silent. My breath made little clouds in the air as I walked. I didn't know where I was going, but anywhere was better than home. I spent that night in a diner off the highway, the kind that stayed open for truckers. The waitress, an older woman with kind eyes, noticed the tears I tried to hide. "Rough night?" she asked, setting down a mug of coffee. I nodded. "You could say that." She didn't press, just slid a plate of pancakes toward me and said, "Eat first, cry later." Something about her voice made my chest ache. She didn't know me, but she treated me like I mattered. It was the first act of kindness I'd felt in years. I worked there for a few weeks afterward, washing dishes, cleaning tables, doing anything to stay busy. She let me sleep in the storage room some nights, saying, "Don't tell the boss." Her name was Margaret, and in her quiet way, she saved me. By spring, I'd saved enough to rent a small room nearby. It wasn't much, just a window, a heater, and a view of the parking lot, but it was mine. I enrolled in night school using money I made from extra shifts, accounting classes. Numbers didn't judge. They didn't lie. Every time I felt exhausted, I'd close my eyes and see that bag, that darkness, and it would fuel me. I never reached out to my parents. They didn't call either. Haley posted pictures online, family dinners, trips, smiles. I wasn't in any of them. It was like I'd been erased. But erasure can be freedom if you choose it. 2 years passed. I finished school, got a job at a logistics company, and worked my way up quietly. I learned about assets, property, taxes, things my parents never thought I'd understand. Then, one winter afternoon, I saw an address pop up on a file at work, a pending foreclosure notice. My parents' address. I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, close the file, pretend I hadn't seen it. But another part, the part that remembered the cold metal of that dumpster, wouldn't let me. I didn't want revenge that screamed. I wanted one that whispered. So I waited. A month later, I saw them in person for the first time in years, standing in a government office, pale, desperate, holding paperwork they didn't understand. Dad's voice was quieter now, shaky even. "They can't take the house. It's Christmas." Mom was still trying to look proud, but her eyes darted nervously at the clerk. I watched from across the room. They didn't see me. I looked different now, stronger, sharper, alive. When they finally turned around, I stepped forward. "Need help?" I asked softly. Mom's eyes widened. Dad stammered. "You work here?" I smiled faintly. "I handle account verifications. Seems your paperwork's missing a few signatures." Mom swallowed hard. "Can you fix it?" I let the question hang in the air for a moment before answering. "I could, but I won't." Dad's jaw tightened. "We're your family." I met his gaze. "No, you made sure I wasn't." Their faces went pale. The same silence they once used to punish me now filled the room. But this time it belonged to them. I didn't shout. I didn't gloat. I just turned and walked away. Because I finally understood that revenge doesn't need to be cruel to be complete. Sometimes it's just giving people back the silence they gave you and letting them live with it. Christmas came again, 3 years after the night they sealed me in that trash bag. The city was glowing that evening. Storefronts glittered with lights, strangers smiled at strangers, and the air smelled like cinnamon and forgiveness. But I had learned that not everyone deserved the latter. I was living in a small but warm apartment above a bakery now. I'd earned my degree, earned my peace, and for the first time in my life, I'd earned joy, the kind that didn't depend on anyone's permission. I spent the morning helping at a shelter downtown, handing out hot meals and blankets to people who had nowhere else to go. Every thank you I heard that day filled something in me that my family had tried to take away. My belief that kindness mattered. When I came home that night, there was an envelope slipped under my door. No name, no address. But I knew that handwriting. Inside were 3 words. "We need help." For a moment, I just stared at the paper. Then I sat down on the floor, the lights from the small Christmas tree flickering across my face. They hadn't reached out in years. Not for birthdays, not for apologies. Only now, when life had stripped them bare. I thought of the dumpster, the darkness, the laughter that still haunted the corners of my dreams. Then I folded the note and set it on the table. I didn't go to them. I didn't call. But I didn't throw the letter away either, because I wasn't the person who wanted revenge anymore. I was the person who'd already taken it, simply by surviving better than they ever expected. The next week, I heard through a neighbor back home that the house had finally been taken. My parents moved into a small apartment near the edge of town. Haley got engaged, but didn't invite them to the wedding. The family that once laughed together now barely spoke. The empire of cruelty they'd built had collapsed from the inside. One evening, I walked past a charity stand collecting donations for families in need. My hand hesitated over my wallet. Then I pulled out some cash and dropped it in. Not because I forgave them, but because I forgave myself. That night, I walked home under the falling snow, the city quiet except for the sound of church bells somewhere in the distance. I stopped for a moment, breathing in the cold air. And it hit me. The difference between them and me. They had spent their lives building cages for others. I had spent mine learning how to build doors. When I reached my apartment, I lit a single candle by the window. The flame flickered softly, and for the first time I felt peace instead of pain. They taught me what garbage looked like, but in trying to bury me in it, they forgot one truth. Even trash can grow flowers if the soil's deep enough. And tonight, the flowers were mine. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.